Hi guys, it's Gemma from FabUK. I'm here with one of the world's top leading animation artists with over 20 years experience, Cem Caplan.
Hi.
Tim, you've worked on numerous TV commercials, TV series, short films, feature films, including Corpse Bride. Your most recent work on Pinocchio has been nominated for an Oscar for Best Animated Feature Film. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, we're all obviously super excited. The attention Pinocchio's got has been phenomenal. I don't think I've ever worked on a film where the amount of positive feedback and yes, critical acclaim and awards and stuff has been. It's just been this rush of positivity.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I've never done something that's had this much positive attention, and I'm kind of just soaking it up in a.
As you should.
Well, yes, you spend a long time. I was there for 8 months, so I was working a lot of my Saturdays, so you put a lot of your time and your energy and your love into your performance. So to see it be well received it feels good, it's satisfying. I'm just kind of just take it all in and enjoy it.
So here you are at the top of your game so far.
There's more to go.
Much more to go, but how did your whole journey in animation start for you?
Well, I guess the simple thing is I was always very into art, but at the age of around 17, 18, I was an art student who was a bit lost. I wasn't sure where to take it, and the one thing I knew was that, okay, I'm 18, I've got about 40, 50 years of career in front of me. I might as well try and do something that I enjoy. That was the one bit of clarity that I think made sense for this young, lost art student. And I was looking for model making courses. I liked doing things with my hands. And they happened to have an animation course at that university on the day I was there. And when someone said, "Is anyone here to see the animation course?" it just clicked. I thought, oh my God. And I had a look at the course, and it was this moment of going, oh my God, that's for me. That's the path I want to do. And I'd been a big Nightmare Before Christmas fan, Wind in the Willows. A lot of my favourite kids programs were stop motion. So the idea of making things and animation, bringing them to life, because between you and me and the internet, I played with toys until I was probably in my mid-teens. Yeah. So I loved creating worlds and coming up with characters. But the idea that you could do that for a living, that hadn't occurred to me. So when that became clear, you could be doing something like Nightmare Before Christmas for a living, that was a big aha moment. And it was off to university, and then the whole trying to get a job, which isn't easy.
Yeah, so that's a different kettle of fish. What was your first opportunity? How did it come about?
Well, I started off after uni. It's a bit like being an actor from drama school trying to get your first acting gig. So I'm trying to get my first stop motion and a puppet animation gig. And I was doing work experience on the first Bob the Builder series. I did some work experience on commercials. I went to Aardman. My first paid thing was I did a week making plasticine mouths for a Rice Krispies commercial.
I just think it's amazing how you say my first paid thing, and I know every creative will be able to relate to that.
Yeah.
Because you have to hustle so hard to kind of get an opportunity, and then when someone pays you, it's like, wow, this is great.
Yeah, you kind of feel to begin with that they're doing you a favour by letting you come in the door and do some test animation or make some little plasticine props or whatever it is. And I went to every company in the United Kingdom that I could find, calling them up and visiting them with my portfolio, and one by one they all said, thanks but no thanks. We don't have anything for you. And I had to keep telling myself, okay, they didn't say no, they said not yet. And I'll go around the block a bit and maybe try and come back, which is what happened. And 18 months later, my first paid gig was here in London, and it was a show for the BBC, educational counting. So it was Mexican gerbils, it was called El Nombre, and they are counting coins to work out if they can afford to get a jelly bean from the sweet machine. But much of the show was all about these gerbils standing around a table going, counting 1, 2, 3. So yeah, I'd say for about 6 of those 8 months, I was pointing at coins and putting coins into piles. But you're doing, day after day, you're doing 8 hours a day of movement, gestures, what about this? What about this? How about this? Or hand gestures, hand gestures, hand gestures. So through doing it, you're developing more of a muscle memory for how to animate the positions. Because obviously I'm moving the puppet frame by frame, and I'm moving the puppet about 12 or 25 times to get every second of animation. So knowing where to put it, you don't inherently, you're not born knowing that, but by doing it again and again and again, you're starting to build a muscle memory of how to feel the movement.
It's like the definition of attention to detail.
Yeah, because you could do that same hand gesture in so many different ways that say a different thing. So if everyone had the same sentence to say, we'd all say it a little bit differently. So it was about learning, if I do it like this, it gives this effect, versus if I do it like that, it gives a different effect. So I was learning my craft doing lots of relatively low quality kids shows, and like an actor, the film you're working on finishes, and you've got to get the next gig. So I was looking for the next job, and that was another kids show somewhere else. Bits of Postman Pat, Fireman Sam, Fifi and the Flower Tots, and each one's a bit different. You've got a different director, you've got a different puppets. The studios have got different ways of operating. So I was having to adapt to different environments and working with different people, different responsibilities you have on different studios. So I guess my toolbox, mental toolbox of ways of approaching things was growing and growing and growing. So the kids series stuff for about 5-6 years, that really helped me learn the basics of my craft, ready for bigger and more prestigious productions.
I think that says a lot as well, because you did that degree, you had the training, but really what you're saying is most your learning and growth came from being on the job and working and probably learning from people that were well into their career.
Yes, so I can pick up their tips and tricks and even learn from their mistakes. When I teach, I like the philosophy from the 1980s Karate Kid film, the wax on, wax off, wax on, wax off, repeat, 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 repeat. And I think in my first job as an animator, I realised that in 2.5 months of doing it 9 till 6 every day, I'd had as many hours doing it as 3 years at university. So I quickly realised the practice of doing, wax on, wax off, wax on, wax off. That's why I see it as like you're learning it becomes more of a muscle memory over time. So that is the practice, practice, practice. There's no getting away from practice, practice, practice.
100%. And what would be I know this is probably rough, but the average length of work, for example, a film like Pinocchio would take? Like, so a feature film, how many hours is put into that?
Oh, I don't know if I could break it down into hours. We're in many digits. The main shoot is around 18 months normally. And they'll start off with animation director, supervisor, a couple of lead animators who are developing the characters. Then as more puppets are being made and more sets, they'll expand the number of animators. Effectively, your factory is getting a bit bigger in terms of how many units. Or that would be a unit's like a set where you've got the woods, or you've got like Corpse Bride, you've got the woods, you've got the Land of the Dead pub, you've got outside the Vanderhort mansion. They're all different sets, and you could have a different animator on each one, and you might expand to about 25, 30 animators. And so the bulk of the production will be about a year. So it kind of ramps up, and then it might, towards the end, it kind of fizzles out because you've all the shots in the woods are done. All the shots in the Land of the Dead pub are done. So some of them will go over a little bit. So it starts with a few people, it's lots of people, then it goes down to just a few. And that's about 18 months, that whole process. And of course, before that, they're recording voices, getting the studio ready. And after that, they've got the post-production and editing and sound and grading. And
what keeps you kind of inspired and motivated? Like in your career, like what keeps you throughout that whole filming process? What keeps you, focused?
Well, at its heart, what I'm doing is storytelling. Yeah. And by storytelling, I've got to. There's some practical things that I need the audience to see. They need to. The story has to play out in terms of beats. So you would say something, I'd react, and then you'd react to my reaction. I've got to time that out to guide the audience's viewing experience. But the other side of it is the emotional side. So what do people need to feel in this moment? So I've got to feel what the character feels, and I've got to get the audience on board with being in that moment too. So it could be a moment of panic, like Barkis, it's all gone wrong for him on Corpse Bride and he's got to get all the money and get out of here. And this sense of urgency and panic, I have to emote that for the audience to feel. Or it could be a moment of peace, a moment of love. My friend Tim was doing a lot of shots on Corpse where Victor and Victoria were looking into each other's eyes and having the whole eyes darting, scanning a face, and I want to say I love you, but I'm terrified of saying it. So you've got to feel that, and you emote it through the characters. And you have to kind of. That's why your muscle memory's got to be good enough that you're able to do it kind of in an instinctive way. Because if you start questioning yourself too much, you can lose being there in the moment with the characters, I suppose.
Yeah.
So it's we're very much performers and storytellers. That's the job. And in terms of what keeps me going, I mean that's the goal. But equally, I know I do a cool thing for a living. I remember that 18-year-old me that wanted to enjoy what he does, and it's long hours. It can be stressful. And so you do need to remind yourself you're lucky to be there, and this is a really cool moment in your career. And there's been so many times, like being on Corpse Bride the first time, and thinking, oh my God, I was a Nightmare Before Christmas fan, and I'm here doing the next Tim Burton film.
Pinch me moments.
Yeah, exactly. And if you're not doing that, I think that's a shame, because I think it's worth again soaking up those good bits, doing things like Shaun the Sheep or Creature Comforts, and going, oh my God, I'm animating Shaun. I love that program. Or Postman Pat and Fireman Sam. I watched them when I was a kid. So to do the remakes later, again, I keep trying to remind myself the pinch me thing. Because if you're there and you're tired and you're having a good whinge, then which we all need sometimes. What's the point? I want to enjoy it.
I'd love to touch on a short film that you animated called Nobody is Normal, which was Childline's mental health awareness campaign. Could you tell us about that?
Yeah, that was, I love that film. My friend Catherine Prowse, who was, she was looking to direct a project to try and really give her portfolio a boost as a director. And she was about to get going on it when the pandemic hit. So she made all the puppets and sets at home in the first wave. And it's very appropriate because with the pandemic hitting, of course, levels of anxiety and people questioning themselves and mental health rocketed.
It did, yeah.
And because the film at its heart is about, how we all wear a mask, or we try and pretend to be something that we wish we could be, but we're scared of showing who we really are. And it's a simple message, I think, really well done about learning it's okay to be who you are. Yeah. But Catherine tells it beautifully. So it's really lovely to work with her and try and help her make the film the best it could be, because in terms of emoting the feelings that you need to be sympathetic to the anxiety that we all feel inside, or everyone gets anxiety, and we suffer from it to different levels. But I really needed to show the audience what the characters are feeling in a very short period of time, because the shots are very short. So it's a minute long, and each shot's maybe 1.5 seconds, 2 seconds long, and I've got to get the emotion across in that very small window. So it was quite a challenge, but when it's a really beautiful project, you want to make it the best you can, and I wanted to help Catherine give the story that she was trying to say. She deserved it, and it. Thankfully, the social media reaction is, I think,
it's brilliant. I mean, I've seen it, and it is definitely worth a watch. Where can people catch it? On Instagram? Or?
I think it's on Vimeo. It's on YouTube. Nobody is Normal, directed by Catherine Prowse, and produced by Blink Inc. And it's got Radiohead's Creep as the soundtrack, which they let us use, which is awesome.
You also worked on Salvation Has No Name, which illustrates a very current topic of the refugee crisis. Yeah. Could you tell us a bit about that one?
Yeah, well, again, this one was written long before the war in Ukraine, and obviously we're having earthquakes now in Turkey, but the whole concept of refugees and xenophobia, this was written long before these very current issues. Obviously, those are not new issues. I saw Joseph Wallace pitch Salvation Has No Name to try and get funding in 2018 in Animarkt, which is a Polish stop-motion forum. And he did the most impassionate sales pitch of what he wanted this film to be. You could see how much he believed in this idea. He was very clear in what the idea was. And we had a coffee a day or two later where he asked if I'd be interested. And he had so much conviction in his idea, and it was about such a powerful and difficult topic of refugees that I thought, again, I believe in you, Joseph. I want this film to become a reality. What can I do? Of course, the pandemic happened, and that made me working with him a bit trickier than planned, logistically, but I was able to be involved as a guest animator a bit later on. So for me, to see young up-and-coming directors who, because it's not easy getting funding to make a short film where you can, and you're making your film. It's not that you're doing a commercial and it's someone else's idea. To get your idea and your style made your way. It's lovely to see new up-and-coming directors, and if I can get involved and help them to achieve their vision, that's a blessing for me. And then years down the line, these guys are getting more and more films and commercial work, and it helps.
And they think of you.
They do. It perpetuates.
Yeah.
But it's great for everyone to see more work happening. That's more jobs. That's more. I think it makes the stop motion world a bit of a friendlier place when there's people who've helped each other out and had a shared experience together, trying to get this project done with little time, little budget, little sleep often. But you then have that shared experience of working on something together, and that forms this bond. So I feel very lucky to have been part of all these bubbles where we're in the trenches together trying to get this thing made.
100%. And I think it's it's a well-known fact that the industry, whether you're in production, you know, on camera, it's hard. You know, it is about, you know, that old saying, it's who you know, which sounds a bit cold, but I don't think, you know, I think it's true, but I think it's mainly about building relationships with people. Would you agree?
Yeah, and it's a life thing. It's not just film or animation. But the nature of what we do, where you work on a project and it's finished, and then people have got to go their separate ways and find the next thing. Inevitably, you're networking more by getting to know more people, by having these shared experiences. So yes, it's who you know thing. It sort of becomes natural in that I call it creating opportunities. By being involved with people and helping people out or trying to be reliable, people think well of you, they recommend you, they think of you when the next thing comes. Or they say, oh, well, we haven't got anything, but there's this other thing happening in that other city. Get in touch with them in a month's time. And so it does become a network of contacts, but that almost sounds cynical. You want good people that want to create good work, and you want that environment of as many people like that as possible.
Because the best work can be created in the best environments.
Yeah, and when you're working that hard on a project, I mean,
and you're with each other a lot by the sounds of it.
Yeah. And there is stress, there is fallouts, and there are personality clashes. That all happens, but you know, when you're spending that much time together, like any job, you want to try and make that a fun, enjoyable, satisfying experience. That's my goal. It doesn't always happen, but.
And I know something that's really important to you is giving back to the local community as well through your animation talents. Can you talk to us a bit about the workshops that you do?
Yeah, who would have thought? It's well, what I mean by that is I went to university and then started doing this to try and become an animator and work on films. I never considered that years later, doing animation with people, it could be like an arts and crafts workshop, or it could be making a film with people who are just members of the public, for example. It could bring people together, and it's just a fun, happy, enjoyable interaction with people. But yeah, what I've noticed is when I turn up to do a workshop, I bring a box of plasticine and some cameras and computers, and the idea is that people actually have fun making something creative. I often don't need to give them much of a brief, they just go off on one and tell stories. It doesn't matter if it's adults or kids. Suddenly everyone becomes a child and they start playing, and you can see people light up. So that's been lovely to see the positive vibes doing stop motion has. Never expected that.
And what kind of background do you have to come on a workshop, or is it open to everyone or a specific type of person? I
have done different things for different people. I've done kids ones where they just come and, I mean, good luck controlling them.
I bet they love it.
Yeah, they'll I mean, I can try and tell them what to do and they'll do whatever they feel like. So they're almost easy. I've done corporate ones where there's it's done as a team building day where I'll give them a little exercise to try and communicate something. And again, they get very juvenile as well. I think people see the puppets and they become kids.
Start acting like toddlers.
Yeah.
What goes on in those workshops?
You always get characters fighting. The adult ones have more adult behaviour as well. So I'll leave it there. And the other ones, more mentoring, people that want to be animators, and they want to learn genuine performance skills, or I find a lot of people need help with making the human body move in a more natural way. So them I make a bit more advanced. I did a 4-week one at Pinewood Studios once, and I'm gonna, I think after my current project, I'm looking to maybe do one here where I live at London City Island, to do a week learning body language, realistic human movement. I mean, that's enough for a week, believe me. But I'm thinking to do a week's sort of special class for whoever wants to come and do it.
Okay, so if we have any aspiring animators, we'll link Tim's website below where you can find his workshops.
Yeah, when I've got a moment to put it all together.
So you mentioned your current project. We know what it is. I know everyone would love to know what it is.
Yes, I'm doing Chicken Run 2 at Aardman Animations. And because we're mid-production, of course, I'm sworn to secrecy. I'm sure I'm allowed to say we've had a test screening. Really loved it. Really loved it. Yeah, came out with wide eyes, and it's fun. I mean,
the first one is so well loved. I think people are going to get really excited for this.
And it's been really interesting when you tell people what you're working on. It's been a long time since Chicken Run 1, which was 2000, and it's still the highest grossing box office stop motion film. But when you tell people what you're working on, their eyes light up and they go, oh, Chicken Run. Oh, yeah. I loved the first one. So a bit like me working on Shaun the Sheep or Postman Pat or whatever elicited other childhood feelings. I forget how many people were little kids when the first Chicken Run came out. So for a lot of people, it's their Christmas movie or it's their childhood movie. So I'm getting a lot of wide eyes.
You're so right about the Christmas movie. I'm sure everyone can relate to that. It is a Christmas movie that you watch at Christmas, isn't it?
Just like Die Hard.
And how random is that? Chicken Run.
I know. I guess it's the new Great Escape.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you so much, Tim. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you.
My pleasure.
Just one last question. If you could give, yourself, however many years ago when you were starting out, one piece of advice, what would it be?
Well, there are things along the lines of, I mentioned earlier about you're always looking to create opportunities and build relationships. That's a bit vague, but as I mentioned, you're always interacting with people you've worked with before or new people, and building relationships, creating opportunities to get involved with other people. Is vague, but I'd say that's the general structure. The other thing I'd say is about change. And when I started this, I was sending my VHS showreel out to companies and trying to knock on their door. And obviously things have changed. We now have social media and streaming, and AI is coming in. There's always something new. So I would say basically I was looking at a 40, 50-year career in front of me. You can imagine in 40, 50 years, technology is going to change massively. It already has in the over 20 years I've been doing this. So I'd say, another general point I'd say to a young me was that change is natural. Change is going to happen whether you like it or not. So I would be interested and even excited by change. Keep looking for what's coming next, and how can I flex my career to go with that? Yeah. Resisting it is only going to put you more and more in the past.
Yeah. Because it's out the comfort zone, isn't it? And that's where you grow. I think just in life in general.
Yeah, and I think all those years of me having to go to different studios, project to project, I was having to adapt and go out of my comfort zone each time. So I would really encourage people to get used to intentionally going outside of their comfort zone. Look for the new challenge. Look for the thing that you're not quite sure how to do, because that's where you're learning something new.
Yeah.
If you're doing the same sort of thing every day and you're comfortable with that, you're not growing. So going outside your comfort zone, seeking new challenges, seeking change is exciting. You're moving forward, you keep learning, and you're progressing. And that's the way I want my career to keep going.
100%. There we go. So do not fear change in anything. Thank you so much, Tim. It's been so amazing speaking with you. Thank you for everyone watching at home, and we'll link Tim's socials below where you can carry on following his journey.
Thank you.